The rumor in the void, the galaxy was never truly silent. Even in the darkest corners of space, someone was always talking. Merchants traded goods, captains traded stories, and soldiers traded warnings. But lately, one strange story was being told. More and more, it was about something huge, too huge to be real. They called it a moving planet. Some swore they had seen it drifting between systems, blocking starlight. Others said it was just a shadow, a trick of sensors, nothing more. In the great chambers of the Galactic Council, the rumor arrived like a whisper. Ambassadors laughed, saying humans were too busy fixing their small fleets to make anything so big. The war with the Czarn Empire had drained them, left their shipyards quiet, or so everyone believed. Only one figure in the council did not laugh, Captain Varen, of the Vokari fleet. He remembered the last time humans pretended to be weak. Back then, they revealed a fleet of stealth cruisers no one had ever seen before. They ended a war in 3 days. He had learned one thing: never underestimate humans. Varen listened carefully to the merchant's account. The man's voice shook as he spoke. It blotted out the stars, he said. It had no windows, no towers, just a smooth, dark surface, glowing faintly along the edges. When asked where it went, Merchant shook his head. It vanished into hyperspace without making a sound. Most council members dismissed it. They said it was probably a mining station being towed, or a drifting asteroid with strange metal deposits. But Varen knew fear when he heard it. He quietly ordered his scouts to search the uncharted sectors near human space. No public record, no reports to the council, just a quiet hunt for the truth. Weeks passed. One scout sent a strange message back. "Captain, we found something." The voice said, tight with tension, "It's not a moon." The transmission ended with static. No ship returned. Varen stared at the empty coordinates on the star map. Something had silenced his scouts, and he knew it wasn't an accident. Meanwhile, far from the council's debates, life in the border colonies went on. Miners worked asteroid belts. Transport ships moved supplies. In one such colony, the workers looked up and froze. The stars had disappeared. At first they thought it was an eclipse, but their planet had no moons. The darkness stretched across the sky, moving slowly. Some said it was a storm in the upper atmosphere. Then the colony's power grids flickered. A shadow had passed overhead, too high for clouds, too slow for a meteor. In orbit, an old cargo hauler drifted. Its crew stared at the thing moving past them. It was vast, so vast their sensors could not measure it. Its surface was smooth, black, and strangely beautiful. Lines of blue light traced patterns across its hull like rivers of energy. No one could tell where its front or back was. It did not fire, did not hail them. It simply glided forward, turning with the slow grace of a world in motion. Inside the hauler's bridge, the captain's hands trembled. "Record everything," he whispered to his crew. But their cameras caught only part of the ship. There was no way to fit it all in one frame. When the object passed, stars returned to the sky. The ship vanished into the black, leaving only silence behind. The hauler captain swore never to speak of it again. But the recording found its way to someone who would. Back at the council, the rumor was no longer just a rumor. Fragments of video appeared on the networks. Some experts called them fakes. Others pointed out details no one could fabricate: the scale, the energy patterns, the faint human symbols etched into the hull. The room went cold. If it was real, then humans had built something far beyond any council ship, something the size of a small planet. Varen stood before the council, his voice calm. "You see now why I did not laugh," he said. "This is number mining station, no asteroid." A junior ambassador scoffed. "And what if it is real?" "Humans are our allies." Varen looked at him for a long moment. "Allies can still change the balance of power," he replied. "And when the balance shifts, wars begin." The council argued late into the cycle. Some demanded answers from Earth. Others wanted to ignore it, fearing that asking might confirm the truth. But in the far edges of the galaxy, Traders still spoke in hushed voices of a ship so large it swallowed the sky, of a shadow in the void that could appear anywhere, anytime, and of a fear that maybe, just maybe, the humans had never stopped building for war. The silent construction, years before the rumors began, Earth seemed quiet. The galaxy thought humanity was tired, recovering from its wars. The great shipyards in orbit around Mars slowed production. News channels showed smaller fleets, old ships, being scrapped. It looked like humans were stepping back from the race for power. The Galactic Council saw no reason to worry. They believed humanity was becoming peaceful. They were wrong. Far from the busy trade routes, in the cold shadows of uninhabited moons, humans were building something. These moons were hidden behind thick radiation belts or inside unstable nebulae. No normal sensor could scan them without burning out. That was the point on their barren surfaces. There were no lights, no signs of life. But deep underground, entire cities of machinery were alive. Massive chambers carved from solid rock held construction bays so large they could fit continents. And in these bays, the first planet-sized warships began to take shape. The project had no official name. Not even the highest council spies could find records of it. Only a handful of human leaders knew the full truth. Engineers worked in total isolation. Each team only knew their small part of the design. One group built the core reactors. Another built the gravity generators. Others grew the bioalloy skin, an advanced material that could heal itself when damaged. When all these parts came together, they would form something the galaxy had never seen. The first hull took years. It was not just metal, it was alive in some ways. The bioalloy skin pulsed faintly with energy. It absorbed radiation from nearby stars and stored it deep inside. The warship could vanish into space and survive for decades without refueling. Its engines were so powerful that even the builders never tested them fully near a planet. They feared it could pull a world's oceans with its gravity wake. The workers were told little. They knew they were building something big, but not why. Many thought it was a mobile space station. Others whispered it was a colony ship to carry humans far beyond the Council's reach. Only the admirals and a few shadowy figures in black uniforms knew the truth. They called them the Keepers. The Keepers moved through the construction sites with silent authority. No one dared ask questions when they appeared. The construction was not limited to one moon. Across human space, similar secret yards were dug. Some were hidden in hollowed asteroids drifting in deep space. Others beneath the frozen crusts of distant dwarf planets. From the outside, they looked like lifeless rocks. Inside, they were the heartbeat of the most ambitious project humanity had ever attempted. To keep it secret, the ships were assembled. In pieces, gigantic sections were moved through hyperspace inside disguised freighters. These freighters carried fake cargo manifests or grain, even livestock. No one thought to scan for planetary armor plates the size of city blocks once. The pieces reached the hidden yards. Robotic arms the size of towers fitted them together. The sound of their work never reached space. No light escaped the sealed caverns. The first completed warship was named Erebus. No ceremony marked its birth. It slid out of the moon's hidden hangar like a shadow leaving its den in the darkness of space. It was almost invisible until faint blue lines along its hull came alive. Its engines whispered instead of roared. It could move between systems without leaving a detectable trail. And though it was as large as a small planet, its armor could resist every known weapon in the galaxy. Even then, humanity did not reveal it. The Erebus disappeared into deep space, drifting in silence. Its mission was simple: wait. Wait for the day it would be needed. While it hid, the shipyards kept working. A second warship began to take shape, then a third. By the time the rumors started spreading, there were already more than half a dozen in existence, each one bigger, stronger, and more advanced than the last. The secrecy was absolute. Captains who commanded these ships were chosen in secret and vanished from public life. Their families were told they were on long exploration missions. No messages came back. No one who set foot on a planet-sized warship without permission ever returned. On one distant construction site, an old engineer named Harrow paused to watch as the final plates sealed the hull of a new vessel. He had worked there for 30 years. He had never seen the entire ship from the outside. Today, he finally understood its size. It was so massive that his mind struggled to believe it was human-made. He whispered to himself, "The galaxy will never be ready for this." A keeper passing by heard him and smiled faintly. "That's the point," the man said, before walking away. When the Erebus finally moved for the first time, no one in the galaxy noticed. Its engines were silent, its profile hidden against the dark. It was just another shadow in the endless void. And yet, even in its stillness, it was a predator waiting to strike. The galaxy thought humanity was resting. But in the cold, in the dark, Earth had been preparing for something far greater than anyone imagined. The first sight, the trade lane between the Zorath cluster and the Helion gates, was calm that cycle. Freighters moved slowly through the narrow corridor of safe space, their shields humming softly, for Captain Relas of the merchant convoy Starlit. Hope, it was just another quiet run. He had hauled cargo for 20 years and thought he had seen everything space could show him. He was wrong. The first sign came when the stars ahead began to dim. At first, Relas thought it was just his forward viewports tinting from a solar flare. But the sensors showed no unusual radiation. Then the dimness grew slowly, unnaturally. It was not the sun changing. It was something moving between them and the stars. The convoy's navigation computer tried to compensate. It zoomed and scanned, trying to measure the object. Then it froze. A flashing message appeared. "Size exceeds sensor range." Relas frowned. "That's not possible," he muttered, but deep in his gut, he felt something ancient fear. The shadow stretched across their path. It was smooth, silent, and impossibly large. No protruding towers or antennae, no windows or visible weapons, just a seamless dark surface that seemed to swallow light. Lines of blue light began to appear, faint at first, then brighter. They ran across the hull in perfect patterns, like rivers of fire beneath the skin. The crew stared, their voices barely whispers. "What is it?" Someone asked. Relas didn't answer. The object was moving, turning slowly. Its motion had weight, like the shifting of a planet. The convoy's comm systems lit up with chatter from the other ships. Most were panicked, calling for escorts. Some tried to flee. Relas didn't move. His instincts told him this thing was not here to hunt them, at least not yet. As the massive shape turned, Relas saw a glint tiny markings on the hull. He magnified the image until the symbols became clear. His breath caught. They were human, not alien glyphs, not corporate logos, just the bold, simple lines of Terran military script. The reality sank in. This was not a drifting moon. This was a ship the size of a world. Then, as if it knew, it had been seen. The warship's engines came alive. No roar, no flare, just a soft blue pulse, and the stars around it seemed to bend. The convoy's scanners screamed with warnings: gravitational distortion, hyperspace field activation. And then, in the blink of an eye, the massive vessel was gone. The space where it had been was suddenly empty. Only the fading blue glow of its departure remained. The convoy was silent. Some crew members stared out at the void as if expecting the shadow to return. Others turned to Relas, waiting for him to speak. He simply said, "Send the recording to the Guild." His voice was flat, but inside, his thoughts raced. If humans had built something like this, what else were they hiding? By the time the Starlit Hope reached port, the recording was already spreading. The Guild tried to suppress it, claiming it was a hoax, but freighter crews are a stubborn kind. They talk. Within days, a second report came in from the far side of the galaxy. A mining crew near the Kelver Rift swore they had seen the same shadow. Their description matched perfectly: the smooth hull, the blue lines, the impossible size. The galaxy began to listen in the council chambers. Ambassador Tevrin of the Lurati Alliance slammed the recording onto the table. "You will not call this a rumor anymore," he said. The delegates shifted. Uncomfortably, some murmured about human aggression, others feared provoking Earth. Captain Varen sat in the back. Silent, he had warned them. Now the proof was here, while the council debated, far from their sight. The warship Erebus drifted in the shadow of a dying star. Its hull absorbed the weak light, turning it into power inside its crew moved with quiet precision. They knew the galaxy had seen them. It didn't matter. The Erebus had not been built to hide forever. It had been built to remind the galaxy of something. That humans did not just survive, they prepared in a dark corner of the ship. The captain stood at a massive viewing window. Before him, the void stretched endlessly. His first officer approached. "Reports confirm we were sighted twice." "Sir," the captain nodded. "Good," he said softly. "Let them talk, somewhere." In the depths of space, other shadows were moving. The Erebus was not alone. The construction yards were still working. More warships would soon join the void, and with every whispered story, the galaxy's fear grew, a fear humanity had planned for from the start. The test of fire, the human colony on Vesta Prime, was not a fortress. It was a peaceful mining world. With open markets and dusty streets, children played in the wide plazas, and cargo shuttles came and went under the warm, red sun. The galaxy believed Vesta Prime was safe, too far from danger to be worth attacking. But someone disagreed. A fleet of pirate warships dropped out of hyperspace without warning. Their hulls were covered in jagged armor, their weapons glowing red. The pirates had struck colonies before, taking supplies, capturing workers, leaving nothing but wreckage. They were confident no fleet could reach Vesta Prime in time to stop them. The nearest human patrol was 2 days away. The pirates had hours to strip the colony bare. The first warning came as the sky turned dark. At first, colonists thought it was an eclipse, but then the shadows moved, pirate ships blotting out the sun as they descended. Sirens screamed across the settlement. Families ran for the shelters. Miners grabbed whatever weapons they could find. But they knew it was hopeless. Against 20 armed warships, a mining colony was nothing. From orbit, the pirate commander sent a message to the colony's governor: "Surrender your supplies, and we will leave you alive." The voice growled through static. The governor stood in the control tower, staring at the comm screen. His voice was steady when he replied, "This is human territory. Leave now." The pirates laughed. Then they opened fire. Explosions tore through the colony's outer storage bays. Flames reached high into the thin air. The ground shook as the pirates' heavy cannons ripped through buildings. The governor braced himself. He had sent a distress signal, but he knew it would never be answered in time. Or so he thought. High above the chaos, space seemed to ripple. A massive shadow emerged from hyperspace, blotting out half the stars. The pirate sensors screamed warnings. They turned their guns toward the new arrival, then froze. It was not a fleet. It was one ship. One impossibly massive ship. The colonists looked up through the smoke and dust. They saw a wall of black metal in the sky, so vast it curved away into the horizon. Blue lines of energy lit up across its surface, like veins awakening after a long sleep. The warship's hull carried the Terran insignia clear for all to see. It did not hail the pirates. It did not issue a warning. It simply acted. A single beam of light lanced down from the ship's central cannon. It was silent. There was no thunder, no roar. The pirate flagship dissolved in an instant, its armor, engines, and crew reduced to glowing particles drifting in the void. The remaining pirate ships spun wildly, shields flaring. Some tried to run. Others fired desperately at the giant in the sky. Their weapons struck its armor, but the blows were meaningless. The warship's shields shimmered once, then faded back. Into stillness, the massive vessel fired again. This time, it did not target the pirates directly. Instead, it cut a path through space just ahead of them. The beam left a glowing scar in the void itself. disrupting hyperspace travel for anyone trying to flee. Trapped and terrified, the pirates surrendered. Their comm channels flooded with frantic messages begging for mercy. The warship did not answer. Instead, it broadcast a single message on every frequency. "This is the Erebus, protector of human space. Leave and never return." The voice was calm, almost cold. Then, without another word, the warship powered its engines. It rose higher into the black, shrinking until it was gone. It had come like a shadow and left like one. On the ground, the colonists emerged from the shelters. They stood in the streets, staring at the empty sky. The governor's hands shook as he lowered the radio. He knew what he had seen, and he knew the galaxy would soon hear of it. News of the Erebus's intervention spread faster than any council announcement. Some called it a miracle, others called it a warning. The pirates who survived told the story with wide, terrified eyes how one ship had destroyed them without effort. In taverns and trade stations, whispers began to change. No longer was the moving planet just a rumor. It was real, and it had chosen to reveal itself. Far away, aboard the Erebus, Captain Rourke stood on the command deck. His officers monitored the fading hyperspace signatures of the retreating pirates. A young lieutenant asked the question everyone was thinking. "Sir, why only one shot?" Rourke's gaze stayed fixed on the stars ahead. "One shot was enough," he said. "Too much fear will make the galaxy unite against us. Too little, and they will forget we are here." The lieutenant nodded. But the thought lingered in his mind. If this was just a demonstration, what would happen if the Erebus ever fought at full power? The answer was something no one in the galaxy truly wanted to see. The council panicked. The Galactic Council chamber was rarely quiet. Delegates from 100 species usually spoke at once, trading insults and proposals. But today, the hall was silent. Every eye was fixed on the large holographic display at the center. It showed the recording from Vesta Prime. The massive black hull of the Erebus filled the image. The single beam of light that erased the pirate flagship replayed again and again. No one spoke. No one laughed at the rumor anymore. Ambassador Tevrin of the Lorati Alliance was the first to break the silence. "This," he said, pointing at the frozen image of the warship, "changes everything." Some delegates nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably. The representative from the Varnic Empire slammed a clawed hand on the table. "Humans cannot be allowed to keep weapons like this." Across the chamber, the Thorian envoy hissed. "And what would you have us do? Attack Earth? We do not even know how many of these things they have." The council leader, a tall silver-skinned elder from the Mirren worlds, tried to restore order. "Let us not speak of war yet," he said, but the room was already unraveling. Some demanded sanctions, others called for immediate military buildup. A few urged for closer ties with humans, believing it was safer to be their friend than their enemy. In the back row, Captain Varen listened without speaking. He had seen the Erebus with his own eyes once, hidden in a shadow, far from the core worlds. He knew what the Council was only beginning to understand. Humans had been planning this for years, and they had done it without anyone noticing. Then the spy report arrived. A hooded courier entered the chamber and handed a sealed datapad to the Council leader. The leader read it, and his eyes widened. "This cannot be right," he whispered. "What is it?" demanded the Varnic ambassador. The leader hesitated, then activated the hologram. It showed grainy satellite images from deep within human territory. Not one warship, not two, but seven. 7 planet-sized warships at different points in space, each marked with Terran insignia, each fully operational. The room erupted. Delegates shouted over one another. "If 7 exist, there could be more. We must prepare now before they decide to use them. Perhaps they already have." The tension was thick. Old rivalries flared. The Trellan Confederacy accused the Varnic Empire of secretly aiding the humans. The Varnic shouted back that the Trellans were already negotiating with Earth. Behind closed doors, amid the chaos, Captain Viren finally stood. "Enough," he said, his voice carrying over the shouting. "We cannot pretend this is a small matter. This is not one rogue ship. This is a fleet, and a fleet of this size changes the balance of power for the entire galaxy." The room fell silent for a moment. "Humans have not declared war," the Thorian envoy said carefully. "They have only defended their colony." Varen shook his head. "That was not defense, it was a demonstration." In another part of the chamber, the Merchant Guild's representative leaned forward. "Trade reports show an unusual pattern. Human convoys are avoiding some major routes, as if leaving them open for something bigger." Everyone knew what that meant. The warships were moving, but no one knew where. The council leader called for calm. "We have two choices," he said slowly. "We can confront them, or we can seek an agreement." The room split instantly. Half demanded confrontation, half argued for alliance. No one trusted anyone else. Some whispered about forming secret pacts behind the council's back. Others began drafting orders for new shipbuilding programs. Fear was now steering the galaxy. In the corner, the Lorati ambassador spoke quietly to his aide. "If we move against them and fail, Earth will decide who rules this galaxy. And if we do nothing?" The aide asked. The ambassador's eyes stayed on the frozen image of the Erebus. "Then they already do." Meanwhile, far from the council's walls, deep in a hidden human command center, Admiral Hale reviewed the intercepted council debates. His officers stood around a massive star map, glowing with the positions of known alien fleets. "They're panicking," one officer said. "They should be," Hale replied. He tapped the star map, highlighting each location where a planet-sized warship was stationed. "Maintain current positions. Let them wonder where we'll strike next." The officer hesitated. "Sir, we're not actually planning to strike, are we?" Hale's expression didn't change. "That depends on them," he said. "We built these ships so no one would ever threaten humanity again, but if they force our hand, they will see what these ships can truly do." Back in the council chamber, the arguments dragged on into the night. Alliances shifted in hours. Trust crumbled in minutes. The galaxy was not preparing for war with Earth. It was preparing for war with itself. And in the silence between the shouts, every delegate was thinking the same thing. If 7 ships existed, how many more were still hidden in the dark? The unveiling the galaxy woke to silence. No trade signals, no navigation beacons, no chatter on the hyperspace channels. Every major communication band was overridden by a single black screen. Across thousands of worlds, people stopped what they were doing to stare. The screen stayed dark for a long, tense moment. Then a voice spoke, deep and steady. "This is Admiral Hale of the Terran Defense Fleet." The black faded to show Earth's sun, burning bright in the void. Slowly, shapes began to appear around it. At first they seemed like asteroids drifting in orbit, but then they moved. Light rolled across their surfaces, revealing smooth black hulls traced with glowing blue veins. They were not asteroids, they were ships. 7 of them, each the size of a small planet. Gasps echoed across alien worlds. In the Galactic Council chamber, delegates leaned forward in shock. The warship that had saved Vesta Prime had been terrifying enough, but 7 at once, side by side, blocking the sun like titans from another age. This was something else entirely. "This," Admiral Hale's voice continued, "is the strength humanity keeps in reserve." The camera feed shifted, showing each warship in turn. The Erebus, the first of its kind, then the Leviathan, with armor like dark glass, the Bastion, its hull covered in layered shields. The Goliath, built for siege warfare. The Aegis, a defensive fortress capable of sheltering entire fleets. Tempest, designed for rapid strikes, and the Obsidian, whose weapons were kept classified, even from most of its crew. "These ships exist for one reason," Hale said, "to ensure that no force, no empire, no alliance will ever again threaten the safety of humanity." The view shifted again, now showing alien homeworlds. In orbit above each one, a warship hung silently, one over the Varnic capital, one over the Thorian homeworld. One over the Lurati Alliance Corps. They had appeared without warning. Without tripping any detection systems, every leader watching knew the message. If humans could put a warship above your capital without you knowing, they could end you just as easily. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some delegates shouted for retaliation. Others ordered their fleets to stand down immediately. The Thorian envoy gripped the table, trembling. They could have destroyed us before we even knew they were here. Varen, watching from the side, simply nodded. That is the point, he murmured, back on the broadcast. Hale's expression was calm but cold. We will not attack unless attacked, he said. We will not take what is not ours, but understand this. Any threat to humanity will be met with force beyond imagination. Across the galaxy, people whispered. Some called it peace through strength. Others called it the birth of a silent empire. Merchants wondered if trade with humans would be safer now or far too dangerous. Pirates erased human roots from their star charts entirely. The warships did not fire a single shot that day. They simply stayed in place, visible for all to see on some worlds. Children pointed at the sky in wonder. On others, citizens hid indoors, fearing the shadow above their heads. After an hour, the broadcast ended. The warships began to vanish, one by one, slipping into hyperspace without leaving a trace. The Erebus was the last to disappear, its massive form fading into the black. The stars returned, but the memory of what had filled them would not fade. In the council chamber, the silence was heavier than before. The Varnic ambassador broke it first, his voice unsteady. 7 ships, visible. How many unseen? No one answered. No one wanted to think about it. Meanwhile, aboard the Erebus, Admiral Hawley stood on the command deck. His officers moved quietly at their stations. Status of the demonstration? Hawley asked. All warships reached their positions undetected and withdrew without incident, replied his first officer. Hawley gave a single nod. Good, now the galaxy understands. He turned to the viewing screen, watching the stars slide past. They will fear us, the officer sighed. Hale's gaze was steady. They will, he agreed. But they will also think twice before ever pointing a gun at Earth again. In the deep quiet of space, the Erebus and its sisters moved to their hidden stations. The galaxy would not see them again for a long time. But everyone would remember that they were out there, waiting, watching, ready. The shadow over the stars' life in the galaxy moved on, at least on the surface. Ships still traveled the trade lanes, markets still buzzed, and the council still met in its grand chamber. But something had changed. Every conversation, every negotiation, every military plan now had one quiet thought behind it. What if the humans sent one of their ships? On distant mining stations, workers glanced nervously at the stars. In wealthy core worlds, leaders signed trade deals with Earth far faster than before. Even the most powerful empires kept their fleets close to home. It was not peace, not really. It was caution. And caution could last a long time. Pirates whispered in backwater bars about the day the Erebus appeared. They told it like a ghost story. How the stars vanished. How one beam erased an entire flagship. Some claimed they had seen more ships since then, shadows passing silently through the void. Most dismissed those stories, but not everyone. On a quiet moon in human space, deep under layers of rock and ice, the shipyards still worked. The massive construction bays glowed with the light of welding arcs and reactor tests. A new vessel was taking shape. It dwarfed even the Erebus. Its hull was darker, its energy lines deeper and richer in color. Where the other warships had been built for defense, this one was built for something else, something more final. In the command center of the Erebus, Admiral Hawley stood with his senior officers. They were reviewing long-range scans of alien fleet movements. They're pulling ships away from our borders, one officer said. They're afraid, another added. Hale's eyes stayed on the star map. Afraid. And curious, he said. They will test us sooner or later. Someone always does. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the panic had cooled, but not vanished. Officially, The Council was promoting cooperation with humanity. Unofficially, every major power was building new weapons. The Varnic Empire was experimenting with gravity cannons. The Thorian fleets were testing faster warp drives. The Lorati were training elite boarding units for ships they might never board. They all knew matching the humans' planet-sized warships was impossible, but they wanted something, anything that could give them a chance if the day came. And yet, not all feared the humans. Some saw opportunity. Merchants who had once avoided human space now sought it out. They claimed it was the safest place in the galaxy. No pirate dared attack there. Even small alien colonies along the Terran border petitioned to join human protection zones. The humans accepted some, rejected others. No one knew the pattern. Some said they took in the ones who had been abandoned by the Council. Others said they had their own secret list. Weeks turned into months, and the sightings became rare. Some began to wonder if the warships had been moved far away. But then came the night over Draven Prime. A merchant ship was making a routine descent when its captain looked up. There, above the pale green clouds, was a shadow immense, unmoving. It blotted out the stars in a perfect curve. For a full minute, it stayed there. Then, without sound, it vanished into the dark. The merchant didn't speak of it until he reached the surface. When he did, others came forward. They had seen it too. The news spread quickly. The humans had not left. They had simply gone quiet again. Watching from the edges, inside a secure human communications hub, a single message pulsed across encrypted channels. Observation complete. No threat detected. Resuming silent patrol. The fleet acknowledged in silence. One by one, the planet-sized warships turned away from the worlds they had been shadowing. Their engines glowed faintly. They slipped into hyperspace without a trace. In the Council, debates turned to whispers. Some wondered if the humans were preparing for a war no one else could see. Others feared the warships were simply waiting for the right moment. And a few began to believe something even stranger, that humanity wasn't just protecting itself. It was preparing the galaxy for something worse, something that would require ships the size of worlds. Back in the hidden shipyard, the newest vessel's construction was almost complete. Its hull gleamed under the artificial lights. Engineers walked along its vast surface like ants crossing a mountain. At the center of the control platform, a keeper watched silently when an officer approached and asked, "When will it launch?" The keeper simply replied, "When the stars go dark." Far away, on the bridge of the Erebus, Admiral Hiley stood alone. The stars stretched endlessly before him. He spoke softly, as if to himself. "They will fear us. They will respect us. But most of all, they will remember us." And beyond the edge of known space, the shadow of humanity's fleet hung over the galaxy. Not attacking, not retreating, just waiting, watching. A silent reminder that in the cold void, there were powers even the stars could not outshine.